Hello Cowboys Nation. Welcome to another video. Without further ado, let's dive into the latest round of news from America's team. There are some important updates regarding two Cowboys players who are expected to see a decreased role after this week's bye. Normally, at this point in the season, Dallas Cowboys players and coaches would be in full-on game preparation mode. However, this time around, they are taking much-needed time off during their Week 7 bye. While most teams would be scrambling to make adjustments, there's a strong consensus around Cowboys Nation that this bye week could not have come at a better time for the organization. As we all know, this season has been far from smooth sailing. The team's struggles have been glaring, and the controversial decision by the team's owner to threaten reporters is just the tip of the iceberg. On top of that, the team has been battered by a relentless wave of injuries and ongoing roster issues. All of these factors make this off week absolutely crucial, not just for recovery, but for reassessment. It's a time for the coaching staff to reevaluate everything, from strategies to individual player performances. And that's exactly what we're here to discuss today. With a 3-3 record and the San Francisco 49ers looming on the schedule, and several key players working their way back from injury, some significant changes in playing time and roles are expected. So, let's take a closer look at two Cowboys players, one on offense and one on defense, who will likely see their roles reduced after this bye week. Ezekiel Elliott. The running back debate is over. The debate over who should be the Cowboys' starting running back in 2024 is no longer up for discussion. Let me begin by saying that I have a great deal of respect for Ezekiel Elliott. He is, without a doubt, one of my all-time favorite Cowboys players. He's had an incredible career, marked by many highs, but it's time for us to acknowledge an undeniable reality. Ezekiel Elliott is no longer the answer at running back for the Dallas Cowboys in 2024. Now, some of you might be wondering, is that due to performance struggles, his age, or the rise of younger, more promising talent in the backfield? The answer is quite simple. It's all of the above. To start, we can't continue to blame a lack of opportunities, offensive line issues, or the need to get warmed up for Elliott's ongoing struggles. The truth is, the root of his challenges this season lies in his declining performance. In 2024, he is simply not able to make the same kind of impact he once did. His rushing success rate, yards per carry, and total yards per game have all taken a significant hit. For example, Elliott's longest rush of the season so far in almost 40 attempts was just a measly 1-yard run. That's not just a fluke. It's a sign of a bigger issue. Then there's the matter of his age. At 29 years old, with over 2,100 career carries on his body, it's simply unrealistic to expect sustained, elite-level performance from Elliott. Age catches up to every running back, and for Zeke, it's starting to show. The physical toll of such a heavy workload is evident, and his best days are behind him. Finally, the most glaring reason for Elliott's diminishing role is the rise of Rico Dowdle. It has become increasingly clear that Dowdle is the Cowboys' most effective running back at this point in the season. In fact, during Week 5, Dowdle surpassed Elliott's best rushing performance of the year, putting up a career-high game. There's no longer any debate between the two. Dowdle is simply the better back right now. The Cowboys coaching staff, including Mike McCarthy, needs to accept this reality and give Dowdle the majority of snaps going forward. Perhaps the bye week will provide the necessary time for them to set aside the nostalgia and embrace the changing of the guard in the backfield. Amani Oruwariye, the rise and fall of a depth piece. Now let's talk about Amani Oruwariye, a player who has made quite an impression recently, but is likely to see a reduction in playing time after the bye week. Oruwariye's journey to the Cowboys was not exactly conventional. Back in 2019, the Detroit Lions took a chance on the Penn State cornerback in the 5th round of the NFL draft. Fast forward a few years, and after stints with a couple of teams, Oruwariye found himself in Dallas, where he quickly became a key contributor to the secondary. In Week 6, Oruwariye played a major role, logging the most defensive snaps of any Cowboys player that game, 65 total snaps. He played more than key players like linebacker DeMarcus Lawrence, 63 snaps, and safeties Malik Hooker, 57 snaps, and Donovan Wilson, 56 snaps. This was no fluke. In fact, Oruwariye had been consistently logging significant playing time since Week 4, often ranking in the top 5 or top 10 for total defensive snaps among Cowboys players. He had, at least for a short period, stepped up and taken on a much larger role than expected. Unfortunately, Oruwariye's opportunity is likely to come to an end after the Cowboys return from their bye week. This is due to the fact that Oruwariye's starting role was a result of injuries to starting cornerbacks Darren Bland and rookie Kelvin Carson, as well as the performance struggles of Andrew Booth Jr. once Bland and Carson returned to full health. It's expected that Oruwariye will be bumped down the depth chart. He's likely to fall from his current spot as the second cornerback behind Trayvon Diggs to fourth on the Cowboys' cornerback depth chart. Given the caliber of players ahead of him, Diggs, Bland, Carson, and even Jordan Lewis, there's little chance that Oruwariye will reclaim a starting position. It's a tough reality for Oruwariye, but in the NFL, opportunities come and go quickly. The once promising depth piece for the Cowboys is now likely to return to a reserve role. This is the business of football, and Oruwariye's brief stint as a starter will be remembered as a fun story. However, it looks like it's back to being a depth piece going forward, and the competition for snaps in the Cowboys secondary will only get more intense. Cowboys predicted to add a record-setting game-changer in the NFL draft. While the current season may not be going as planned for the Cowboys, there is a silver lining. Looking ahead to the NFL draft, there's a chance that the Cowboys could add a game-changer to their roster, and they might just have the opportunity to do so earlier than expected. The Cowboys are still sitting at a 3-3 record, which isn't the worst position to be in, but they face one of the toughest remaining schedules in the league. The nature of their losses, including 2 blowouts at home and another lopsided defeat that only looked somewhat close after a futile late-game rally, suggests that this team is not on an upward trajectory. That said, the Cowboys still have a shot at making the playoffs, and the NFC East is far from out of reach. The Washington Commanders, though off to a good start, are only 1 game ahead of Dallas, and the Eagles have shown cracks in their armor. Meanwhile, the Giants, though improving, are still far from being a dominant force. That leaves the Cowboys in a position where they could still make a late push for a playoff spot. However, if this season doesn't turn around in a meaningful way, the Cowboys might be looking at a higher draft pick. According to ESPN's Jordan Reed, one of the most exciting prospects in the upcoming draft is Boise State's Ashton Janey. If you haven't been paying attention, Janey is having an absolutely historic season. He has 1,248 rushing yards through just 6 games, along with 17 touchdowns, leading the entire nation in both categories. His 9.9 yards per carry and 28.0 yards per game are eye-popping statistics, and he's even on track to break Barry Sanders' single-season rushing record of 2,628 yards. Reed's latest mock draft predicts that the Cowboys could land Janey at number 15 overall. Janey's dominance on the field speaks for itself. He's the second most productive running back in the country, and he has the most yards after contact, 841 yards, of any player in the FBS, with 255 more yards than the next closest runner. This kind of production would be a huge boost for the Cowboys, both as a runner and as a receiving threat out of the backfield. If the Cowboys are able to land Janey, he could be the game-changing player that propels their offense into a new era. What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Cowboys Nation. See you later.